Hello and welcome to the first in this series of videos about health and disease and the development of medicines. This is a really important topic to understand, not only just generally but also for your own personal benefit. Having a good understanding of health and disease and also the way in which it's treated will help you understand a lot about yourself and various trips you might have to the doctors or to the hospital, and it will just help you understand sort of the bigger picture. So what we're going to be looking at in this lesson is we're going to be looking at health and disease in focus. So we're going to answer things like, what is health? We're going to talk about diseases and the different types of sort of broad category of diseases you can have, communicable and non-communicable diseases. And then we're also going to talk about how having one disease may increase your chances of having another disease. So let's start with the big question, okay? What is health? Okay, big question and lots of scientific research behind what health actually is. Now, if you did a quick Google of typing in what is health, the top answer you will probably get is the WHO's definition of health. So the WHO is the World Health Organization. The WHO's definition of health is the complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. Okay, so let's just talk about that very, very briefly. Okay, we have physical health, we have social health, and we have mental health. And the definition of health, according to WHO, is the complete well-being in all three of these sort of sections of your health. So one of the things to remember is actually all of these sections of health are linked to the other. So these three, whilst they're not interchangeable with one another, they can have an effect on each other. So for instance, if you have a good physical health, you are more likely to have a good social and mental health. Similarly, if you have a good mental health, you're more likely to pursue a good physical health and a good social health. If you have the detrimental sort of physical health, you're more likely to have detrimental mental health and detrimental social health. So all three of these aspects of your health are really important to consider. So what does each of these bits of health mean? Well, physical is being free from disease, so not having any disease, free of disease. So actually just sort of, good health, that you're not ill. What it can also mean is it's to do with your sleep. So are you sleeping well? And also to do with sort of your general fitness. Social health. Social health is really, really important as well. So this is sort of how you get on with other people. So making sure you're maintaining good friendships, good relationships with your family, friends, those kind of things. And, well, your mental well-being is how you feel about yourself. Now, health is a heavily researched area, and if you look into all of these three different aspects, you'll come up with all sorts of definitions and ideas behind what contributes to physical health, social health, and mental health. Now, for the purposes of GCSE, this is all you need to worry about and the depth in which you need to go. So we've got physical, which is being free of disease, getting good sleep, having good fitness. You've got social, which is having really positive interactions with family members, friends, and sort of other human beings. And your mental health is how you feel about yourself. Well, let's look at addressing the second question. How do communicable and non-communicable diseases differ? So if we were to look at communicable as a word, it looks like communication, which is where the word stems from. So if we have a communicable disease, what it can do is it can be transferred from one person to another. Okay, that's the main thing. This can be transferred from one individual to another. Okay, now if it's transferred from one individual to another, there has to be a vector. Now, when we think about disease, we often think about viruses, bacteria. Now, we sort of clump all of those disease-causing microorganisms into one group, okay, that we call pathogens. So a pathogen, okay, this is an important definition that you need to know. A pathogen is a disease-causing microorganism. Okay, disease-causing microorganism. So we've got this idea that we've got a communicable disease which can be transferred from one individual to another. We've got a pathogen that is a disease-causing microorganism. Now that can be transferred sort of by droplet form, all sorts. And we're going to talk about communicable diseases in more focus further down. But examples of these are things like the flu, HIV, chickenpox. Those are all sort of examples of communicable diseases. So what about a non-communicable disease? So here's a challenge for you. Non-communicable. What I want you to do is have a pause of the video and have a think. What if this is what a communicable disease is? What is a non-communicable disease? Have a think about what it could be and see if you're right. So, question, non-communicable versus communicable. What's the big difference? Well, a non-communicable disease cannot be transferred between individuals. So, if somebody's got a non-communicable disease, okay, it cannot be given to somebody else. So, what could be some examples of this? Okay, examples of this could be a genetic disease. So that's something caused by a faulty gene. Another example of a non-communicable disease is something caused by lifestyle. So an example there, some people class obesity as a disease. That is a lifestyle condition. It's caused by eating too much, something that you do as a lifestyle. So this is the difference between communicable and non-communicable diseases. So just to summarize, communicable, transferred from one individual to another, caused by pathogens, which are disease-causing microorganisms. Examples include flu, HIV, chickenpox. Then we have non-communicable diseases. So they cannot be transferred between individuals. Things like genetic diseases, such as cystic fibrosis, caused by a faulty gene. If you have cystic fibrosis, you cannot sort of pass it on to another individual, okay, apart from through inheritance. Slightly different, but you can't just give somebody cystic fibrosis, like you can, say, the flu. And other things that could cause non-communicable diseases are lifestyle choices. So the last question to sort of address is, why does having one disease increase your chances of having another? Well, there's a few things, okay, that could essentially lead to this. Okay, so why does having one disease increase your chances of having another? Well, the first is that you could get a disease that damages your immune system. Now, this is really, tough. There are many diseases that do this. So disease damages immune system. Now, a really good example to talk about here is HIV and AIDS. Okay? So HIV is a virus that, if left untreated, can turn into AIDS. Now, AIDS is a condition that basically suppresses your immune system. So your immune system no longer works. So if you have AIDS, you are highly likely to catch a common cold that can then turn into pneumonia and then can be fatal. So when people get HIV, okay, it can be treated and it prevents that HIV turning into AIDS. However, people who have AIDS are really highly susceptible to other diseases. And actually, people who get AIDS, they don't die of AIDS, they tend to die of other diseases, such as the common cold that normally your body would just be able to fight off with its immune system, but because it's got no immune system or a damaged immune system, it cannot fight off that cold, so it ends up being fatal. Another thing that could happen is that you get a disease that damages the natural barriers. So, for example, it could be things that prevent you from producing mucus or damages your skin, and sort of breaks down those natural barriers that your body has to fight off diseases. The last thing that can happen is that a disease damages an organ system. So if this organ system doesn't work efficiently, then you are more susceptible to other diseases. Okay, so 3 sort of broad examples there. Okay, why does having one disease increase your chances of having another? The first is that first disease you get damages your immune system, so therefore any infection from another disease could be more damaging. The next is that you could have a disease that damages your natural barriers, which means that it's easier for pathogens to infect you. And then last but by no means least, you could have a disease that damages an organ system, and because that organ system isn't functioning properly, it makes you more susceptible to other diseases. So that sort of concludes this brief little lesson on health and disease. So what we've talked about is what is health, okay, talking about the WHO's definition and sort of the different things that make up physical, social and mental health. We've also talked about communicable and non-communicable diseases and the differences between them. And last but by no means least, we talked about why having one disease may increase your chances of having a second disease. So hopefully that's given you a good introduction to this topic. Please tune into the next few videos to find out a little bit more about communicable diseases in more detail, non-communicable diseases in more detail, but also how your body fights off infections and also how we have developed medicines to treat diseases. So please, if you've enjoyed this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's awesome to have your support. And as always, I'll catch you in the next video.